In 2016, Oman Air wrote a check for $75 million, not for a plane, not for a route, for a time slot. The right to land at Heathrow twice a day. $75 million for a time slot. That fact is the key to understanding why, right now, there are airplanes worth $30 million rotting in the Nigerian sun that nobody is coming to collect. Let me explain. Heathrow is not just busy, it is packed to the edge of its physical limits. The airport's runways, taxiways, and gates operate at close to 99% of their maximum allowed movement. That translates to nearly 9,200 takeoffs and landings every single week. There is no slack in the system. Every slot is spoken for, every hour is scheduled, and the official cap, 480,000 movements a year, leaves little room for error or expansion. If you want to add a flight, you have to buy, lease, or trade for a slot. There are no empty windows, no hidden reserves. The airport's schedule is a game of musical chairs where the music never stops. This is why a single arrival or departure slot at Heathrow can sell for tens of millions of dollars. The scarcity is not theoretical. It is measured, counted, enforced. In this world, access to the runway is the most valuable asset an airline can own. Every airline at Heathrow faces the same unforgiving rule. Use each slot at least 80% of the time or lose it. That is not a guideline. It is written into European and UK law, enforced season by season. Twice a year, regulators tally up every scheduled arrival and departure. If a carrier falls short of the 80% threshold, their slot goes back into the pool. Someone else gets a shot. This is the so-called use it or lose it mandate, and it transforms scarcity into a relentless operational duty. Airlines cannot simply hold a slot as a trophy or a bargaining chip. To keep it, they must fly, rain or shine, profit or loss. The regulation does not care if demand collapses or if a route turns unprofitable. What matters is that the slot is used. Transfers and trades are tightly overseen. Before a slot changes hands, the new owner must prove they can meet the 80% rule. Miss the mark, and a multi-million-dollar asset evaporates overnight. This is the legal trigger that turns every minute of runway access into a countdown clock, forcing airlines to make hard, sometimes bizarre, economic choices. In March 2020, the world's air traffic didn't just slow down, it almost disappeared overnight. Passenger numbers collapsed as borders slammed shut and travel bans spread across continents. According to IATA and Eurocontrol, scheduled flights in Europe fell by nearly 95% in just a matter of weeks. Airports that once pulsed with back-to-back departures became silent. Runways sat empty. Airlines slashed schedules to the bone, grounding thousands of jets. The scale is almost impossible to grasp. A system built to move millions of people every day was suddenly idle. For carriers, every empty seat meant lost revenue, but the bills kept coming. Leases, insurance, and maintenance costs didn't pause. With traffic in freefall, airlines faced a brutal calculation. How do you survive when almost no one is flying? But the rules and costs of the old world still apply. Ghost flights sound like urban legend. Planes flying empty, burning fuel for no one. The numbers are real, and the logic is relentless. During the pandemic, Greenpeace tracked over 100,000 near-empty flights across Europe. The cost to operate just one ranges between $10,000 and $30,000 depending on the route and aircraft. Lufthansa, British Airways, and Air France all admitted to flying these routes, not for passengers, but to keep their precious slots alive. It is a cold calculation. Lose the slot, and you forfeit an asset worth tens of millions. Fly an empty jet, and you are out a fraction of that, painful but survivable. Airlines did the math and chose to burn cash and jet fuel to protect runway rights. Every ghost flight is a line item on a spreadsheet, a sacrifice to the logic of scarcity. The outside world saw waste. Airlines saw insurance. On paper, a parked jet looks like a dormant asset. In reality, it is a line of red numbers that never stops growing. Storing a single Boeing 737 can cost between $500,000 and $1 million per year just to keep it on the ground. Insurance alone can add another $1 million even when the plane never leaves the tarmac. And if you want to bring that aircraft back to life after months of idling, the bill for inspections, system tests, and regulatory recertification can climb from $50,000 to $500,000. For leasing companies, these numbers are not theoretical. They are monthly invoices, maintenance contracts, and risk calculations. Sometimes, the cost of keeping a plane ready for action is higher than the plane's own book value. Suddenly, abandoning the aircraft starts to look less like negligence and more like a calculated move on a spreadsheet. Chinedu Okiki stands on the apron at Lagos, surrounded by jets that haven't moved in months. He calls it the graveyard shift. Wings gathering dust, engines forgotten, paychecks shrinking. In Nigeria, nearly 70% of the commercial fleet sits IDL, locked by court orders, unpaid leases, or simple neglect. The Federal Airports Authority's 2023 advisory warned of growing risks. Abandoned planes clog runways, and maintenance costs are spiraling. But this is not just a Nigerian story. At the pandemic's peak, more than 16,000 aircraft were parked worldwide. Liners lined up in deserts, on highways, at airports no one could use. The numbers are staggering, but the logic is clear. Sometimes it is cheaper to let the metal rot than to pay for a future that may never come. Today, a grounded jet can cost less than the runway it cannot use. The absurdity is the logic. When access beats ownership, value shifts, and the rules decide who flies or vanishes.